I'm Reverend Phil, and I'm your host for Words of the Prophets. Where are our prophets now? Where are those messages God chooses to communicate divine revelation through? In the past, the Creator has sent prophets like Abraham, Siddhartha, Jesus, Muhammad, and many more. Maybe our higher power has switched tactics since we reinterpret God's words as soon as the Creator's prophets leave us. Could it be that Spirit talks to each one of us individually and we haven't learned to listen? On Words of the Prophets, our modern prophets show us how to find the internal prophet that is the I Am, and we discuss the application of spiritual principles in all aspects of our lives. Love and light, everybody. I'm Reverend Phil, and I'm your host for Words of the Prophets. Welcome back to another week. Today my guest is Don Beaucage, who is a firekeeper, and we'll explain that as we go along what that means. Today's prophetic topic is Teachings from the Heart Path, and this topic is a historical perspective of pre-contact beliefs, and we will also explain what that means. But we're going to start with Don, and Don wants to do a little ceremony first, a little drumming and rattle. So you want to explain what that is and then start?
Okay. First of all, Pidaban and Dignikas, I'd like to thank the grandparents for this beautiful day, for this time in creation, and to give my prayers out to everyone, and to my spouse Suzanne, and to her family and to my family. Pidaban is messenger of the dawn. That's the spiritual name that was given to me. And it's also the time before the sun is up, and there's light in the horizon. And it was that time given to all creation to stop and to offer thanksgiving. And so my spiritual name is a part of that. It means morning messenger. So, do you want me to start off? Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
Avano Engeya, Avano Engeya, Avano Engeya, Avano Engeya, Avano Engeya, Avano Engeya. Aho. That's the morning song. Avano Engeya is before Columbus, goes back thousands of years, and it was sung in the lodge to greet that time, the new day. Everyone would go out and offer their prayers and their tobacco, and ask for spiritual guidance for the day.
So this was a communal prayer practice?
During ceremonies, it was. Everybody would come out during the ceremonies, during the times of the Grand Lodge. But when people were back within their village and within their homes, they would go out and different parts of the village, and so I remember my grandparents going out in the morning and then singing the morning song.
As we progress, but I mean, can you share tribal affiliation?
I'm Ojibwa, and I'm from First Nations Nipissing in Canada. And I belong to the Firekeepers Society, and I've been involved with, through my family, the Medewan Lodge, and a lot of the Ojibwa teachings.
So let's go a little bit deeper then. What is a firekeeper?
Firekeepers, everybody is a firekeeper. Everybody is Skabe. Skabe is sak. It means we're all helpers. And it's our belief that we were in the spirit world and we had asked to come to the earth plane. We had asked to come here. And we were given gifts to come here. We were given the gifts of our parents. We were given the gifts of our purpose, our life bundle, and everything that was on that bundle. And we were given our spiritual cord that connects us to the physical world. So in that way, we're all helpers. Everything in creation has its original instruction, plants, all things in creation, birds, fish, animals, all humans are spiritual with that connection.
In the indigenous belief structure, is there such a thing as free will? I mean, you come in with a purpose. Can you just kind of like get here and say, I disregard that purpose and I'm going to go do something else?
Everything is free will.
Okay.
You are given, you've sat with the grandparents and you've chosen whatever mission, big or small, and the things that are put on your blanket, you've negotiated for your life's purpose. You need those things. And they're represented by material objects, but also they're represented into like the 7 gifts, the honesty, the humility, and the essence of what those gifts are. And
are the grandparents spiritual guides? Is that an accurate equation, so to speak?
yes.
Okay.
And we're always asked to be guided by good spirits, and the grandparents are the good spirits.
So you come down with the intent and purpose of being, I don't know, is the firekeeper the final destination, or is it more beyond that? Or you don't know?
Beyond, I don't understand.
Okay, I mean, is there another stopping point, or is the firekeeper
You mean
the
is there
ultimate
an involvement?
Yeah, is
Yeah.
the purpose?
Well, I don't know. I think in some religions they have different levels, different types of evolvements, but with early the ontological landscape of native people is that spirit is as high as you can evolve.
Okay.
And I that's one thing that I think is different with us. There's no hierarchy presented as such. Spirit is spirit, and it's spirit in its own essence, and it might evolve through different animals to, from insects to the bear. I don't know. I really don't know.
I guess what I'm asking, maybe I haven't put it clearly, your purpose, right now you're saying you are a firekeeper. Can you, in human form, then grow into, I don't know what the appropriate title would be, but like, I know, for instance, like in ancient shamanistic beliefs, there were a variety of shamans within a grouping. There would be a spiritual shaman, there would be a physical shaman. Somebody would know the herbs and the essence and help people heal. Another person would conduct the journey, so to speak. So there would be different positions. Is this in this body? Is this your ultimate destination, or is there more to come? I don't know if that's making it any clearer.
Okay. Again, I'm not sure of what you mean.
Okay.
I'm really not
Okay.
sure on
we'll
that.
let it go.
Okay.
It's so. Let's talk about.
It could be one of those things. In about 3 weeks, I'll probably have an answer for. But
Oh, we'll bring you back in 3 weeks then.
But I just haven't thought of it like that. And I don't know if there's different levels. I do know that we have people who have are sort of like they're the lead firekeepers. But in a Grand Lodge, you would have 2 that sit there, and they will trade off, and then you train the younger people, and you get to the point where the elders understand and respect you enough to lead a big ceremony. But there's no real hierarchy or supervisory level.
Okay, I got you. We started talking about creation, and you and I talked off air about creation stories and how they vary, and that each tribe has its own. Do you want to share yours?
Well, I see creation stories in all the different directions of people, the black people, the white people, the yellow people, and the red people. All have creation stories. Where did we come from? And how far that goes back, and looking at the possibility of even before people wrote on stones and on hides, and with our own people we wrote on birch bark. I see within each tribe a lot of different creation stories, and then it somehow gets to be more central. But with even with the Ojibwa people, the Anishinaabe people, I've seen maybe 200 different creation stories. Some of it, the otter brought life, and some of it was the beaver and the hummingbird, and or a plant, the rose. But I just like the song that I sang. It's connected to how at the beginning of all creation, in physics, there was movement. And there's this humming, and it comes, everything was created from that. And then everything in this material form, that's scientific in that way. And then the teachings come from that. And then, to the involvement of the drum itself, which is represents your heartbeat, represents the heartbeat of the animal that provided the hide, the heartbeat of the tree that it was made from.
Do all hearts beat the same?
No. A baby's heart beats faster, and then as you get to an adult, it evens out, and then it goes back to faster again. So there's a cycle there. But all nations, like all heartbeats, have and that's the heartbeat you live with for 9 months, upside down underneath your mother's heart. That's the first drum that you hear, that tempo. And that comes from all the way back to the sound of the universe, from the shaker as a heartbeat. And that's that natural balance within that. So it said when you sing a song, you sing that song from the deepest truth of your heart, the deepest honesty of your heart, because then the grand spirits, the grandfathers at the end of the universe know that your heart's in a good place. Your heartbeat is in a good place, and that's what you're asking to sing in that, and to that balance.
So is this a beat, a rhythm that is dominant within ceremony?
Within our ceremonies,
yes.
Yeah, we treat the drum like a human being, like we feed it. The women usually talk for the drum, And the big drums, we bring over tobacco. You'll see people walk over and they'll put tobacco on there to feed the drum. You're feeding good thoughts and good prayers. You're asking your brothers and sisters in creation to that have offered themselves. You're asking for their prayers so that you can be stronger. And
I got 2 questions. I got lots of questions. How far back does the collective memory go of the Chippewa?
well, it goes back before writing, even on the birch bark in songs. So the song that I sang, the Wabano song, is one of the first teachings, one of the 4 songs. The Tibetan monks have 4 songs that are very sacred, so sacred that they waken up the spirit. They can awaken the dead, and they go back before things were written down, centuries. Our songs, that song goes back way before Columbus. So people sat on the ground and gathered together and held these songs. These songs were held by certain individuals and carried and passed down, and really haven't changed. So this is like the spiritual top 10 as far as as far as Native people goes. It's like it's central, and all teachings and religions go back that far to when the prayer wheel is spin. It's times 10 the prayer. When the drum is sung, it's times 10. It's amplified,
So if you were to go to another tribe and played that, they would know automatically what that was too?
All tribes have their own drums, they have their own songs and their own teachings. But I've shared my songs and I've learned their songs. And so there's been a good sharing, a renaissance of bringing things back, because a lot of this stuff was lost. A lot of it was just hanging on a thread. And then we've been really trying to bring not just the song. This song, the Wabano song, takes 6 months of intense learning, because Wabano, who sat with the grandmother spirit, brought the teachings to the people, and she sat with the people. And so all those teachings of proper conduct, living right, are within that song. And it's like, Wabano and yeah, and you say, well, it's only 2 words, but the teachings, take
Of what they mean.
Yeah, of how to sing it, and who can carry it. All those things are really important. So some songs, again, were given to families. Some songs were given to people in dreams, and they were caught that way. The Firekeepers Song, let me give you an example of that.
Go right ahead.
So. Ambe machata jeba bidaban en me come na 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 gengo ba. Firekeeper Song is another one of those sacred songs that awaken the spirit. So during the ceremonies, when everybody would see you as a firekeeper, 3 o'clock in the morning when there's nobody around, to keep the sacred fire going. And nobody's paying attention and stroking your ego. And you're feeling, well, it'd be kind of nice to get some sleep. I've been up 3 or 4 days. I'm really tired. That you sing that song to get strength, to bring strength back to you. And it's a calling in of the spirits. Ambe, machata, chipwa, means, come on, let's go. This is the time. It has my name in it too, Bidab. And this is the time of the new dawn, the new day. And the elders are saying that this is the time of the new day. And we went through the age of Aquarius, which was the onset of this time of brotherhood. And it said, come on, let's go. Let's get the show on the road. Let's get things done. It's not the time to sit around. This is the time to do things, to help Mother Earth at this time. And we are known. And you are known. Everyone is known by the choices and the decisions that we make each day. So it's really a song that calls us to presence, to be ourselves in the moment, in the present. It's Menagesiat. It's like from my spirit to you now, right in the moment. And we are known by the decisions that have been made by the ancient ones. So they prophesied this time. So it's also called the prophecy song. And this song also took 7 years of training to carry that song. Because the song is very short, and it's got one verse, but it takes a lot of teaching. It takes a lot of teaching. At least I sat out for 2 years. So people will know the song, but they don't know the teaching. They don't know the essence to carry that fire, to carry that spirit of that song.
When you keep the fire, so to speak, you're talking about a ceremony, however long that ceremony could last. It could last for a week, or is this fire like an eternal flame?
Well, when you're born, there's a fire for each direction, and then there's a fire in the sky. Where's that? Our fire is the sun, Skabe, the head, sun. And then there's, on earth, there's a fire at the core of the earth. So where's the other fire? It's in your heart. Okay, you are the center of the universe. Your fire is at the center of you. That's the fire you want to keep going. That's the fire that's really important, because as we're given that flame as a baby, and then we're asked to be right in spirit, so that fire can become one where people automatically, their spirit sees that, and they're attracted to you because there's balance there. And some people that talk a lot, and they pretend they have a lot of knowledge, but they don't really have wisdom of the heart. They don't have an emotional intelligence. One of the great journeys that we take is from everything that's been known since the beginning of time, from everything that was created, all things known, to everything that's ever been felt. And it's sweetgrass that's been cut about this length at a certain time of year represents that longest journey to bring that balance. And it's braided into 3. Like my hair is braided into 3. That represents mind, body, and spirit.
Okay.
So there's a purification that's needed for ourselves on a daily basis. Instead of just going to church and once a week get purified. And we're always in a sense of longevity for purification, so that we walk in beauty, we walk in harmony. And that's the fire that, people who have passion about something, music, people who have passion about new creative things, we have that when we're younger, right? Then as we get older, we just sort of get comfortable. In the song is saying, don't get too laid back. Take yourself out of the comfort zone. Be yourself. Like Dylan said, do not go gently into that good night, right?
Yeah.
Right. And that's what he was saying, rage, rage.
It's interesting. You and I, in getting ready for this show, so to speak, and the communications we've had, we kept going back to shamanism as the core, and how there's a certain set of beliefs that come out of shamanism that kind of get traded, changed with each different culture, but they're at the core. I mean, two things you've been talking about so far. One is the beat. Hinduism talks about that as the Om, And at the core of every spiritual practice, there's that combination of sound and light, that kind of that same, everything starts at that beginning message.
Yeah.
And then you were talking about the fire, and I had a woman on last week who was an Ayurvedic practitioner, and
Did she study with Dr. Ladd? Because Dr. Ladd, I've
down
known,
in Albuquerque.
I've known Dr. Ladd for years, a very fine practitioner. And they learn in Sanskrit and song and verse that's been passed on for thousands of years. It's in song. And so when he's doing your pulse or something, he's also humming with it, and then
I quoted him
powerful.
as the beginning of the show as the opening topic, but I'm not sure if she studied with him or not. We didn't even get there.
Yeah.
But one of the things she talked about was that, one of the elements of the individual is fire.
Yeah. Well, it's the five, and they have the ether in the Chinese, where we have the four, and it's the earth.
Earth, wind, air, and fire.
Yeah, and so the ether is the combination of all of those for that spiritual cord, that physical cord.
Yeah.
So it's just worded different in that way.
Exactly. That's kind of what we've been talking about. The other thing that came to mind when you were talking about the firekeeper is the concept in Judaism of the eternal flame.
Yes. Yeah.
Which I think is really symbolic and just another offshoot of that basic spiritual core practice.
Yeah. I think in Old Testament at the beginning they're far more tribal, and I think there was more writings and teachings that grounded them in that sense of desert people, like really, like we know what desert people is like 'cause we're high desert, but it's a very the desert is enduring. It really is taxing. It's asking the most of us, of people, just to endure and to be a part of that.
I want to go back on something I asked you. The age of the Chippewas.
Ojibwa.
I'm sorry?
Ojibwa.
The Ojibwa?
Ojibwa.
Ojibwa.
Yeah, you can say Chippewa because that's American. That's the American pronunciation.
Okay.
Chippewa is it's
Ojibwa.
yeah, and even like words like Chicagoan, which is Chicago comes from that, is a place of strong medicine. So Ojibwa lived on south of the lake as opposed to ones that lived on the north. So you're going to get a different tone. And so
does the history, the tradition, trace back thousands of years? I mean, you talk, like pre-Columbus, but that was only like 600 years ago.
Thousands of years.
Thousands of years back. Yeah.
And you don't really realize that until you're put out. You're put out for your vision, and then you're asked to not just deprive yourself of food and water, but of sleep, and to think about what was it like. What was it like for the teachings of this lodge that you're sitting in? Where did that come from? Where did the teachings of the songs come from? How did the villages look like? You're asked to project yourself back because you're actually sitting there with those ancient ones, and they help you with that vision and understand it. We live in such a material world that the first couple days we go through this withdrawal, and it's just really intense, this energy that we're living in. And for us to go back and to slow down into our natural self, our heartbeat goes down and our thoughts stop racing, and it's a very powerful calming that comes over us.
We were talking, I got to laugh because what you're talking about, what we talked about earlier, about people wanting shortcuts. We talk about this off camera, wanting to get things quickly.
Yeah.
I had a woman on my show who takes people out for vision quests, and she talks about the 4 days of non-eating, fasting, and that whole process. And I shared the DVD of that show with a friend of mine. And when he watched it, he goes, "Well, that sounds really nice, but don't they have a 4-hour process?" And it's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
We got to cleanse the body and get it back to a place, and you can't do that in 4 hours.
Well, see, that's what our teachers that taught me said. You don't take this medicine and run with it, because it's very powerful. You don't use it in a bad way against anyone. And there's a process of being very patient. So you just don't go out and fast. You have to learn how to fast the right way without hurting your body. You have to learn how your thoughts are going to be. And then the fasting without sleep, the depriving yourself of that. And that's like the monks in Kyoto who will do this for 9 days plus, to the point where they're so in tune that they can hear a piece of an ash from an incense hit the ground. They can hear it falling. And that takes, and meanwhile they're running every day, a lot of miles in between all of this stuff. And discipline. We're losing the discipline, so people are taking this stuff, and it's like a spiritual hijacking. They want it all right now. And so they're actually even, it's spiritual bypass. They're paying for it, and they're not really willing to sit down. When I first started to go and sit with the elders, they put me to work.
How old were you at the time?
I was in my early 20s, and I was coming in, just coming into recovery. I did a lot of alcohol and drugs, and I was just starting to clean up my mind from all of that. And then, but basically, it was like, okay, from can't see to can't see, you worked constantly. They just had you working, and every once in a while they'd look at you, and then if you were ready, they'd talk to you a little bit, and then. Just when you wanted to give up, and then they sit down and they talk with you, and you had to earn it. And people just want it like that. It's like instant.
That's that concept in Buddhism. You get practicing, chop wood, carry water. Chop wood, carry water. Yeah. You got to do that for a while.
Well, I think, between you and I, we've seen the hijacking of all beliefs and stuff go on because of this fast pace. And the Navajo elders called it the hurried sickness. They didn't have pathology for neurosis and anxiety and all that. So the hurried sickness, it explains it a lot. And the Tibetan monks call it, there's a similar word, which means that things are speeded up. And the real payoff is in getting yourself to a point where you wake up and you work hard to keep yourself in balance from the moment you wake up to the time you go back into the other part of the spirit world or spirit day. And people think, well, that's the best time. We're going to rest, we're asleep. But a lot of people are going to sleep. In a very powerful healing time, they're going to bed worried. They're going to bed with a lot of PTSD, trauma, and more anxiety. So they don't get the type of sleep, the sound sleep.
Yeah.
And that's where this learning how to stay awake. And that was the hardest. Everything, well, I know how to do this. I was raised Catholic, so we fasted on certain days and we deprived ourselves of something. But when they said, well, now you're going to have to learn how to not sleep, I had no idea what they were talking about. So you're up for 2 days and you're just nodding off, and you always have to get up and shake yourself because this sense wants to take over and over. And to get through that takes a lot of discipline. and the monks can rest and without sleeping.
Yeah.
They get to that point, and they can meditate and contemplate. They understand. Even in 12-step, some of the earlier pioneers of 12-step really emphasize prayer and meditation.
The 11th step was primary.
Yeah. And it is, because our spirits are not at rest. Even in early recovery, we're still pretty snaky and squirrely at that time.
Is meditation a part of indigenous practice?
Yes. Everything that they did, and it's still on the pueblos today, that when they bake bread, when they cut wood, very contemplative. So it's still there. It's still a practice, and it's a very important practice. And today, it's really, with especially with younger people, they're caught up in technology. They're always texting, or they're always on the computer or TV.
Yeah.
It's really hard for them to really meditate. And with a lot of the foods that are processed and everything, I think that's been part of that development.
Sounds like it would be the equivalent of Zen Buddhism, being at one with whatever you're doing, being connect to that moment.
Yes.
So if I'm baking bread, I'm baking bread. If I'm chopping wood, I'm chopping wood. If I'm building a fire, I'm just building a fire, and that's it.
The Aborigines in Australia call it stopping the world. And with our people, when you go out and give that tobacco, when you bring the shaker out, and you get to the point where you're shaking it, you can't even hear the shaking. It's like, but you can't even hear it because you're so in tune with everything that stops to give thank you. Everything does stop. There's this sense of all animals, everything in creation that's alive stops and gives thanks at that time. And when you touch that moment, and when you cultivate that, it's a very powerful process. Just some of that once a month can really help heal a person's spirit.
Once you've cultivated that, is it a constant part of you, or is it something that you have to renew? Is it something you can lose?
Yeah, some good questions. I think that it throws a wrench into that part of us that's not in balance, and I don't think you really lose it. But I think you still have your humanness. You still have the sense of looking over at the guy that cut you off and having that second of anger, and but again, there's more of a thoughtfulness in your process. And to answer your question, I think the beautiful thing about us is that we are so human in everything. We are so human in everything that we do, that our emotions still can take over and put us in places where we don't want to go. But the inner spirit always brings us back to that well. So I think, again, like, people expect a spiritual perfection with people, that then they create messiahs, saviors, or gurus, when having more faith and trust in your humanness is probably a better process. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I'm just looking. There's so much information I want to cover, and there's so many questions I want to ask, and they don't necessarily go together. You created this beautiful outline, and we haven't even touched much of it. We've touched on parts of it. I want to bounce into the outline, if that's okay.
Whatever you want to do.
Let's talk, because the two things I'd like to cover before we run out of time is the 7 stages of life and the 7 grandfather teachings. Let's start with the stages of life, if we can. The way you laid them out for me, it was good life, fast life, wandering life, truth, planning, doing, and the return or completion.
Yeah.
Can you explain those?
Do you have a marker? and a piece of paper. I got one here. This here is
Can we zoom in on that?
This thing here is
Yeah, just hold it up like that and see.
is written on a birch bark creation scroll,
Okay.
and it's right in the middle of a beaver's tail. And so if you look at it, you really don't know what it is, but it takes a lot of training to understand the deeper teaching, and this is one of them. This teaching here, again, took like 7 lifetimes of accumulated knowledge to become wisdom that can be passed down. And each one of these, if you look on your journey, you get to this point, and you have to make a decision here. And there's 7 of them points where you have to make a decision. And what happens if you don't make the right one, you go down here, then you have to go back.
Okay.
And some people are bouncing back and forth all their life without even getting to that first one. And so the teachings, a lot of the songs and everything are a guide, with this pattern, so that you, within each 7-year stage, you need to be an elder and recognized as an elder at that time. A lot of times people will feel that you're an elder spokesperson because of your accumulation of knowledge, whereas this was an accumulation of wisdom. And they say that wisdom needs an invitation. Knowledge often comes uninvited. So with that, with this pattern here, we're asked at each stage, and there's ceremonies at each stage, to help that person, just like Maslow's hierarchy.
Okay.
In that sense, where we would pass through and help that individual or ourselves or the community understand. And so with that, there was a lot of emphasis on what is real wisdom. What is real wisdom? Wisdom is like the fuel for that fire that you carry. And sometimes we carry too much knowledge, but you've seen people that are just top heavy. Everything is like big words and not that they're trying to run with ego but they're just more thoughtful in all process, and they're not feeling. They're not balanced in their own feeling. Or there are people that are what? All feeling, and then they don't go through.
Okay, so that's they're totally out of balance, in one sense or the other. So one is having too much information with no application, and the other is trying to apply something without the information.
Yeah. I like some of the work done on emotional intelligence now. Makes a lot more sense, I think.
To me, that's a contradiction in terms. That's another story.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, it is. Okay. Does that explain the stages?
Yeah.
What do I have down there for the first one is honesty.
The teachings, honesty.
And so I ask a lot of times with my clients, I run them through this, people that I work with. Youth are very honest, aren't they? They carry that sense of, you almost have to teach them how to be dishonest. And they do, because they watch everything around them and see it breaking the rules, people saying one thing and doing something else. We teach them some things that they find out are false later on. But in itself, youth, children, are born into the spirit of honesty. And by the time they're 7, they're making a total commitment. They're making a total life choice decision, like that song says. We are known by the choices and decisions that we make. So we're asking that child to walk in creation in a beautiful way, in pure honesty. How does that feel? How does it feel to be that way? In today's world where there's so much dishonesty, it's not easy.
We're not asking them to learn something. Basically, we're asking them not to learn dishonesty, to stick with what they were born with.
Yeah. And I think, again, where the native teachings, going back, there wasn't the sense of good and bad, heaven and hell. There was a sense of you were spirit, you were good, and you are always good. All the good things are in your life bundle. You've traded some things off because you were dishonest with yourself. So when you pass through the western doorway and go back to sit with the elders again, they'll say, well, what's that object there? We didn't put that in there, it's and then you have to explain yourself. And we don't go through life, explaining to ourselves enough, because we're willing to trade off too many things. And then we feel anger, then we feel frustrated, then we feel out of balance.
Because we are out of balance. We're losing that sense of what the spirit really is and really means.
Absolutely, yes.
So you talk about like getting top-heavy, we become ego-heavy as opposed to spirit,
Yeah.
centered.
Ego's like the fly on the back of the buffalo. The fly thinks it's in charge, telling the buffalo where to go. The buffalo is going to go where it wants, The ego goes where it wants.
Yeah.
And we fool ourselves into thinking
that this is more powerful than it is.
Yes, yeah.
So the next teaching was humility. Was there a reason for the sequence, by the way?
Again, that's another thing. It's different. Like the next one is like from that is the wandering life, and I was told different in that. So I've come across maybe 10 different versions of this, but I think the fact that there are 7 major life choices and decisions is usually central, and I usually go with that and try to learn them all, because there's some good teachings in all of them.
A lot of the information you provided me was in denominations of 7. Mm-hmm. Any particular reason for that? You had 7 sacred directions, 7 stages of life, 7 grandfather teachings, 7 major teachings, 7 Thunderbirds, 7 years of training.
Yeah. Well, that's what makes it easy. Somebody like myself who's ADD and my mind's all going all over the place, and to learn the basics of the 4 directions, and with each one having a color, and then the sky being blue. Oh yeah, the sky's blue, and the earth is green. Oh yeah, it makes sense. And your central fire being purple. Those again, I'm talking to the universality of concepts and beliefs, and I think those are importantly central and important in that way, so that it's easier not just to remember, but it also is in tune with our psyche.
I did a little research because when I started seeing all these 7s, one of the first places I went to was the 7 chakras, and so I did a little, and I can't remember what the number 7 has for ages been regarded as the number of mystery relating to the spiritual side of things.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting. It's an amazing how many sevens there are when you start looking into it in the spiritual teachings.
Yeah. And that's what I'm talking about. It's not just within the Ojibwa Anishinaabeg teachings, but with a lot of the native cultures, the Pueblos and the native cultures in the Southwest and in the North, the Inuit people and South America, but all the indigenous people in Australia, and that is central in itself. So there's a reason for that type of consciousness.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I need to interrupt here for a little bit. We're running out of time. I need to make a couple of quick announcements. We'll come back for a couple of parting thoughts.
My voice is getting...
Thank you all for tuning in. That I'll do again at the end. You're watching us on public access television, which means you, the public, are part of this process. So if there's things that you'd like to hear about, if the things you've seen and you disagree with, I'd love to hear from you. My contact information has been flashed periodically, and it will continue to flash, and then it'll be rolled at the end on the closing credits. If there's a subject you'd like me to cover, or if you think there's something you'd like to participate in, give me a call, email me. I'd love to talk to you. Also, I put this out there every week, looking for somebody to do a show on Edgar Cayce. If you feel drawn to that, let's talk. I am a spiritual counselor. I also have a state license, which I don't really use much. So if what you're hearing here you think might be applicable to help you deal with life on life's terms, contact me. I have an office. Basically, my services are on a donation basis, so don't worry about funding. God takes care of me. It's been that way for quite a while now. Also, next week, we're going to have good friend returning, Chris Grissom, and we're going to do a show on reincarnation, what it means, what it doesn't mean, and a whole lot of various things that go along with it. So hopefully we'll see you again next week. So, I have got a few minutes left. I got a question.
My contact information?
They've been flashing that.
Okay.
So and if anybody can't catch it, contact me and I'll be happy to give you Don's information. Let's talk about spirit. Let's talk about Mother Earth. How does this all tie in? Is there a hierarchy? Is there one overall spirit that has many manifestations? How does that structure, or is there a structure?
Well, like I said, that's different than different isms where people evolve from the lowliest insect to the grandest of human avatars. I think with us, again, we're in the spirit world. We've made a choice to come here. We've made a plea to the Great Spirit. The gifts were given to us, our parents, our sacred bundle, and our sacred cord. And we come here as helpers. We are helpers. And I see everything as a helper in that sense. I'm just as much of a helper as the water, as the tree, as the bird. When we hunt, we pray for the game. When we take that spirit of that game, we pray for its family. Everything is connected. All my relations, that's what that means. That we are, in a sense, all a part of everything.
Is there a difference between spirit and soul? Is there such a thing as soul?
Yeah. There is. I don't think much of a difference. I think in a lot of ways they're the same. And some people are user-friendly with soul. Some are more friendly with spirit. And the thought of being spiritual. or soulful. Like, it depends on the individual, but it talks about that part of us that, in a sense, that we truly understand to its deepest level, but we really don't pay much attention to it. And we see it in a sense of what our emotions are like within the day. We could be happy in the morning, sad in the afternoon, and perplexed at night. And it changes so often. And in the springtime of our soul, in that rejuvenation, that's that new awakening. We always feel new and good about ourselves. So again, I think it's up to interpretation.
Okay. We've got about 3 minutes left. You got a closing drumming thing you could do?
Yeah, I'd like to just send out a traveling prayer song to everyone, so that they're going to watch this, that they can send their own spirit to someone that they want to help or heal. And that's the power of prayer. That's the power of song. That's the power of sharing, that we can do that for each other. You know, and we're also told to be careful of our negative thoughts, because that comes back on us in that way. And so to check our anger hat at the door, and to work on, you know, being more thoughtful, being more in a spirit of compassion. Takes a little bit more effort, you know. So this is called the Compassion Song.
Okay. Thank you. Don, thank you so much. Maybe we'll twist your arm and get you back here again another time.
Sounds good.
And I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to remind you we're here next week again, brand new show. So stay with us. This is Santa Fe Spirituality.
Okay.
Blessings and greetings. Bye. I'm Reverend Phil, and I've been your host for Words of the Prophets. Thank you for tuning in. Please join me again next week, same time, same channel, for more Words of the Prophets.